Okay, welcome back to FPL Graduates. I'm Ben.
My name is Josh.
And today we're going to be talking about FPL for Dummies. Let's get into it.
Right, so what is FPL? So your mates have just come along, it's like, oh, join our fantasy league, you like football, and you're like, what? What do I do? So we're going to run you through all the tips for what you need to be a decent FPL player and hopefully beat your mates in that mini league.
Right, so FPL is an app on your phone or your laptop or whatever device you have, and it basically allows you to create your dream fantasy team. And it basically gives you points for real life performances if your players are playing well.
Yeah, however, there are a few restrictions, not allowing you to get the big dream team that you want with all the prize assets, otherwise everyone would do well all the time.
Yeah, so you get a budget of 100 million to spend on 15 different players. This includes 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders and 3 attackers.
Yeah, that's the main bits. Then you want to go and ask your mate for a link so you can join the mini league. That is the best part of FPL, is playing with your friends, checking up on how they're doing, all that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so you've got the mini leagues with your friends, you've also got certain cash leagues that certain different people are doing. I know all over Twitter there's loads of people who are running different sorts of cash leagues to win some great prizes, and of course there is that big prize at the top for winning FPL.
Yeah, huge prize, so much camaraderie, the whole ego boost of winning your league, everything like that.
Yeah, and I felt that rather recently. So, as I said before, you get 15 players to pick from. Now, picking a team, you get 15 players, you get unlimited free transfers, so you get to chop and change your team as many times as you want before the game week starts.
Yeah, so game week deadlines will happen every game week, so there'll be a time where you cannot make any more transfers for that game week. Usually about, they said 90 minutes before kickoff,
Yeah, it's changed to 90
of the
minutes.
first game of that week. So if it's a lunchtime at 12:30, it's obviously going to be at like 11.
Yeah, so it will be a 90-minute change, and then every game week you'll get 1 extra transfer for your team.
Yeah, and you can bank these transfers up to 2. But if you bank a third transfer, you will not keep that transfer. You'll lose it and it's wasted.
Be mindful of that when you're playing. Check how many free transfers you got, and sometimes you may not have to use them, but it is good to make sure you use some of your transfers.
Yeah, I know a big thing for people is, do I have to keep looking at it? Like, do I have to keep maintaining it? And that's one of the big things. So FPL has now allowed you to add the game weeks into your personal calendar, and you'll be able to check the times of when. I think you could realistically look at your FPL for 15 minutes a week and be satisfied with what you're doing.
All it really requires in FPL is to have a pretty general understanding of the players, who's playing well, who's not playing so well. So even watching the highlights of the football, you get a general understanding.
Yeah.
To improve your rank, however, that's where it gets a bit more challenging and a bit more looking in depth and in detail.
Yeah, so that's probably these sort of types of people probably watching this video, because you've gone to the extreme length of watching a YouTube video on how to get better.
Why are you watching this?
Realistically, yeah. So we'll take you through a few things that you need to know in order to be a better FPL player.
So the main thing you're going to be needing to look at, especially for attacking assets, is shots inside and shots outside the box on target. If your player is getting lots of shots inside the box, outside the box, on target, it's more likely that they're going to score a goal, which is pretty self-explanatory.
You might hear a few of these terms be brought up as well, called XG and XA. That is expected goals and expected assists. So obviously not their actual goals and assists, it's what they should be scoring and assisting in a season. These are important stats to remember, because if their player's got a high XG, you should probably keep him in your team, because he will eventually, hopefully, score those goals.
So don't be frightened if your player blanks maybe 2 or 3 weeks in a row and is getting all those shots on target and getting good expected goal stats. You need to be patient, and that is the key to FPL. Being patient with your players, because eventually they will return.
Having a head loss is not what you want on your sandwiches.
Yeah, you've had a couple last season.
Yeah. So you'll be seeing things called chips. There are 3 different chips. There is a free hit, a wild card and a triple captain. You probably can't see a wild card at the minute because you basically have a free one at the start of the season. So we'll start off with free hit.
So a free hit is something you use throughout the season. You won't be seeing it before game week 1 because it is basically a free hit. In a free hit week, you get as many transfers as you want for 1 week only.
Yeah, just to be specific, it will not keep after that game week's played. It will revert back to the team you had the week before, if that makes sense. It's not a wild card, basically.
It's not.
And this is what we'll explain. So a wild card is literally revamp the whole team forever, basically.
So what you need to be doing for a free hit is looking at which teams have the best fixtures of that game week.
Yeah, so you'll be looking at the likes of Liverpool and City. If they're facing Fulham and West Brom, ideal free hit week if it's in the same game week.
Exactly. And this kind of brings us on to a double game week, which is when a team has more than one game in a game week. And this is the time that you should be looking at maybe to be playing your free hit.
Yeah, this is when the Carabao Cup happens, like the final, usually around there. And towards the back end of the season is when you'll see more double game weeks. This is where you have a team play 2 fixtures, like Ben said, and you'll be able to get almost double points for those games.
Yeah, this is where you can use a variety of different chips, maybe such as your triple captain, which I'll let John talk about because I seemingly don't know how to use one.
Ben had a great idea of tripling captain. Is it Mane?
Yeah, Sadio Mane.
Double game week. He got injured in the first game, first half. He got 3 points.
3 points.
What a great triple captain. I had Jamie Vardy. He's got me 15. I'll take that.
I'll take the end of the season result, thank you very much.
So triple captain, it does what it says on the tin, times your captain's points by 3 for 1 game week. You want to do this in a situation where you think you're going to get the most out of it. So like a double game week, or if you're eager and you really want to use it, or if a player's in really, really good form and you know they're going to return, you just want to use it in an easier game, don't you?
Yeah, it's one of them chips where sometimes it's down to pot luck. You could triple captain anyone in a single game week and they could pop off with like 10 points and then triple it to 30. And that could make or break your season, really.
It definitely can. The chips are the ones where it makes up ground that you wouldn't be able to make up in any other scenario unless your player does ridiculous.
Definitely. Towards the back end of the season especially, everyone is going to be having the similar sort of teams. You're going to see the back end of last season, everyone had Fernandes, De Bruyne, and tripling up on your captain can lead to you winning over your FPL rivals.
Definitely. It's like Mikel Antonio scoring a hat-trick against Norwich last season. You saw some people bring him in and he just popped off that he got I think it was 60 points. 60 points is like what people get in a week.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to the last chip that we're going to speak about. It is bench boost.
Now, bench boosting is quite important, to be honest. It can really help gain on your FPL mini league rivals.
Yeah, so last season I done a bench boost. I think I had Dean Henderson on the bench for 11 points and Charlie Taylor got 7 points. So that's an extra 20 points nearly, obviously with the other players. Just through bench boosting, it's great.
So when to use your bench boost is sometimes a tricky one. A lot of people like to use them in a double game week, but I feel like you need to take time and kind of set up your team a few weeks in advance ready for that bench boost.
Yeah, so you basically either want a game week where your whole team has easy fixtures and you know that they will return, or like Ben said, double game weeks, it's double the chance.
Yeah. What you kind of want to think about as well is having a stronger bench leading up to this bench boost than you'd normally choose to have. If you say have a lot of 4.5 million options, maybe it's time to downgrade one of your strong assets and bring in a few more players who you think are going to return.
Yeah, or wait until the end of the season when your squad value has gone up and you have more money to invest into that bench, so you obviously have more players.
Exactly.
So, scoring in FPL. There are many different ways you can get points through your FPL assets. You can also lose points from your FPL assets. We're going to talk through it now. You can look on the FPL website as well at the proper scoring chart.
Yeah, we'll probably put a picture somewhere
on the screen.
There,
and
points.
Yeah, as we're talking about them. So, you can get up to 1 point for playing up to 60 minutes. Past 60 minutes, it's 2 points. That's that's your basic points. You'll get them almost every week. So for each goal scored by a goalkeeper or defender, we can get 6 points. For each goal by a midfielder, it's 5. Each goal by a forward is 4. It goes progressively lower as far as you get up the pitch, because obviously strikers will score more goals than defenders, etc.
Well, maybe not the midfielders this year, considering everyone is a midfielder.
Pretty much, yeah. So for a clean sheet, for a goalkeeper or defender, it's 4 points. For a midfielder, it's 1 point. For a striker, you don't receive any points for a clean sheet. For every 3 shots saved by a goalkeeper, you get 1 point. So we saw the likes of Nick Pope, didn't we?
Yeah, against Liverpool, you saw Nick Pope make a collection of saves. I think he made 7 or 8 saves in that game and ended up with a score of like 7 or 8 points purely from conceding 2 goals against Liverpool, which is great.
And he's obviously a great shot stopper, so that's why you got that return.
So what you need to be looking at for goalkeepers is teams that are keeping clean sheets and also keepers who are great shot stoppers.
Burnley are a great example of that, although Nick Pope has been priced quite highly this year.
Too expensive for me this year.
Yeah,
too expensive.
Very expensive. So, staying on the topic of goalkeepers, penalty save, they get 5 points. So the likes of like Tim Krul last year, he was quite good to have as a backup, because if he's saving penalties, because he's good at saving them, 5 points, that's more than a clean sheet.
Although Norwich were leakier than a bucket with holes in.
Hence why they're now in the Championship. So if your player then misses a penalty, say Bruno Fernandes, God forbid, misses a penalty, -2 points, which is not ideal. We've seen the likes
of course you use the United player for penalties.
Obviously, he doesn't miss. So Raheem Sterling, I think last season, he had a penalty. So he missed the penalty, which is -2, but then he scored the rebound. But you still get that -2 because he's missed it. Even if it hits the bar, gets saved, goes wide, no matter what, miss.
Yeah.
And then we could move on to bonus points. There is selected bonus points.
So I'll talk about this one. There is a system in which bonus points happen, and throughout the game this will be constantly updated, and you will be able to see it on the FPL website under the score. Now they'll get points for passes completed, they'll get points for tackles, you name it. There'll be a bonus point system, and at the end of the game there'll be one player who gets 3 extra bonus points, a player with 2 and a player with 1 usually.
Sometimes you can get 2 players on 2 bonus points from the same team. It just all depends. Like, they tweet it out as well as it stands and stuff. You just have to wait until the full 90 comes in and then see what happens.
But as it tends to happen, usually, for me anyway, 1-0 Wolves, Raul Jimenez 3 bonus points.
It always
every
happens.
time.
He'll score a lucky little tap in and he'll get 3 bonus points.
And
I love to see it. I
really do.
So moving on to the ways you lose points, we obviously talked about penalty misses. That is one way you can lose points. You can lose points as a defender or goalkeeper. You lose 1 point for every 2 goals that are conceded. So say if your team's getting thrashed 4-0, that's -2 points. They don't get any tackle returns, they finish on 0. So it's not ideal. That's why you're looking for those strong defences, so you don't lose points through goals conceded.
So you're either looking for strong defences or defenders that will return constantly.
Yeah, you want either the ones that attack attacking returns. We saw like Matt Ritchie last year. He was a defender, but he played further up the pitch. Eric Peters this year is a great shout, 4.5 million. He's playing left mid in that Burnley team.
Unfortunately, the Lord Lundstrom, he has been moved up the pitch. He is now a midfielder. So we can't rely on him attacking returns anymore, unfortunately.
He was ridiculous last season. He was literally a must-have. So the last 3 ways you can lose points from your players is a yellow card, that is -1. So Mitrovic, for example, he got 9 yellow cards last year. That is -9 points. When you add it up towards the end, you think that's a lot of points.
Yeah.
And then the next one is obviously a red card. That is -3. So
I've had a bad experience with that. I had, who was it? Heung-min Son against Chelsea. I captained him.
Doubles your minus
-4 points.
Doubles your minus points as well. It's not ideal.
That was a tough week. That was a tough time, and we move on from that, and I hope this season it never happens. Please.
And then the last way to lose points is obviously scoring an own goal. If you get that, unluckily, it's -2 points. So not as bad as a red card, obviously, because they can be quite accidental sometimes.
Yeah. So you just got to hope that your players don't concede own goals.
Yeah. So that is all the ways you can gain or lose points. I'll link it in the description, the link to the rules, and then you'll be able to see it for yourself.
Okay, so the next part we're going to be talking about is substitutes. Now, it may not seem important as you've got a starting 11 full of really good players, but why are subs important, may you ask?
Injuries, suspensions, all these things play a factor throughout the season, and it's key when you're building your squad value up to reinvest it in that bench.
I'm sure every FPL fan will agree with me, Pep Roulette is the reason why you need strong subs.
Another reason, that is terrible. You see, you've got your team set up, you've got Sterling, you've got Mahrez, you're like, they're bang to start, and then he'll just start Bernardo Silva out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that is the reason why you need a strong subs bench. You need to have players who will play, every week and who will also occasionally return. Now, you could either go with a really strong bench and potentially lose out on points, or you could have one or two decent players who you know if they have to come off the bench, there is still potential of them returning.
Yeah, so the likes of, for example, me, I'm playing like a 3-5-2, so I'll have a couple of £4.5 million defending options really to come on, because you get the most value for money in defence out of the budget options, in my opinion. You can easily get clean sheets, things like that. And obviously, if your defender is injured or something happens, like say in the warm-up, he can just come in and he'll be there for you.
A very important part of having your substitutes is having them in the right order. I've seen so many people complain about it. You've got to make sure that the player who you think is going to return most likely and who you think will get the most points for you is your first sub.
That's obviously out of the bench players, not your first 11. And also, if you're playing a 3-back, for example, and your defender gets injured or he doesn't play, it's not going to bring your midfielder choice in because you only have 2 defenders. It'll bring your first reserve defender, if that makes sense.
Right, so the last thing we're going to be talking about is how to improve your rank on the worldwide leagues and how to win your mini league, which Josh won't be talking about.
So I finished second in our Friends mini league last year. We're going to have our own mini league for the FPL Graduates. Link is in the description. Go sign up, join it for free, and there'll be a little prize for the winner at the end.
There will be a little prize at the end of the season. So, join it, and let's see your teams.
If you can beat me, I'm coming back with a vengeance this year.
He's looking like he wants revenge on me, but I know it's not happening.
That's what he wishes. So how can you beat your mates in the mini league is the main question. So basically, obviously you're new to this, so you're not going to want to invest the amount of time, even though you're watching a YouTube video that's about 15 minutes long right now, to try and get better. You don't want to invest a lot of this time weekly. So you want to set up your team to be as good for as long as possible as you can, so you don't have to make as many transfers. Yeah,
so if you're a casual FPL player, you're going to want to probably go on maybe 2 or 3 times a week and just check how your team is doing, how other teams are doing, and where you can maybe improve, make transfers, and use your chips in order to overtake your opponents.
Yeah, although it is good to check your mates' teams and see who they've got, if they're doing better than you and stuff, it's also important to just go with your gut, because if you get the same players as them, you're not going to overtake them. You're just going to be sat like at a normal point.
You've got to not be swayed by what other people believe is going to happen, because as we know, it's a game of football. It is the most unpredictable game in the world. So you've just got to go with how you feel is right and what you feel is going to happen in a game. No one has a better judgment than you.
Yeah. So if you say watch match of the day every week, that's a great way to see what assets are performing well, who got injured, things like that. And you can obviously check for who gets injured. That's a prime time for when you need to use your free transfers.
And when you're looking through to make transfers, FPL help you out so much. There is rows upon rows of stats, which is going to be in the video now, and you can see so many different stats. The ICT index, which shows how in form a player is, and it shows like points on the last few game weeks. It shows so much. So use the FPL app to your advantage.
Yeah, I think my favourite category on that list that you spoke about is form, because then you obviously see the most informed players. It can be a little skewed sometimes, because if a player plays once, for example, and he had, compared to everyone else, his form will be his total points. So you have to take it into account.
Yeah.
For a good part, it's the best.
Yeah, it is a really good way to, as a casual player, have a look and see where you can make improvements, because there could be a standout player for you, and you just need to look at the stats to work them out.
Yeah, because a player could be playing insane in real life, but he might not be returning FPL. Like De Bruyne is obviously, he does return a lot, and he's the top scorer last season. But he will get a ridiculous amount of assist to assists. Midfield players always seem to do that.
He is always involved in every single goal in some way, some form or another. He is involved. Right, so that is our video on FPL Dummies. How to play FPL and everything you really need to know starting out on the game.
Yeah, so if you have any other questions that you want to know that we haven't covered in here, drop it in the comments and we'll be free to respond and help you guys out.
As always, please like, comment, subscribe. Share this about on FPL on Twitter. We'll also leave our Twitter link in the description. Go and follow that.
Yeah, we'll give us live updates of what our teams are looking like and what transfers we think we should be making leading in to the first game week.
I'm looking forward to it. Are you?
I'm buzzing. I can't wait for it to start. Football coming back, baby.
Come on.
Right, that's all now, so I'll catch you later.
See ya.